Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 26th, 2016 Planning Board meeting. I have to announce that the Planning Board is recording this for purpose of minutes. LCAT is also recording it, and I have to ask if anyone else in the audience is recording, and if so, please state your name. Hearing none, we're going to jump right into business. We have at 6 p.m. a site plan review for our medical office building. Dr. Kevin Coughlin. Todd, you have some stuff to read in?
I sure do. The East Long Meadow Planning Board will hold a public hearing on July 26, 2016 at 6 o'clock in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 60 Center Square, East Long Meadow, Mass. for site plan review submitted by Dr. Kevin Coughlin. The proposed project is for construction of an 18,000 square foot medical office building located at 250 North Main Street. Information related to the application is on file with the Planning Board and available for review by the public. Is this it?
No.
Okay. This is from the Police Department, dated July 25th, 2016. This report reviews the proposed office commercial building at 250 North Main Street, East Long Meadow. A review of the submitted plan, as well as attending a roundtable, the Police Department is making the following recommendations. It is recommended that the proposed North Main Street exit entrance to be constructed so that it provides easier access to traffic both entering and exiting. The proposed curved entrance creates a tight entering-exit situation. It would therefore be recommended that a second entrance be made to assist with traffic flow. Any questions may be directed to my attention, Officer Strodom, Police Department. A letter from the Board of Public Works to Robin, Director of Planning, Zoning, and Conservation, from Dan Murphy, Town Engineer, regarding planning review, North Main Street parcel KJTS LLC. We have reviewed the proposed development on North Main Street parcel 14-10-0 and have the following comments. A sewer manhole is required at the tie-in location in North Main Street. Number 2, improved access is recommended for equipment access to the forebay and infiltration basin. Consider extending pavement, moving the dumpster pad further west, and adding a short gravel road off the south leading to the sediment forebay. Proposed grades and basin layout can be adjusted for easy access for maintenance. The infiltration rate is conservative, and the infiltration basin appears to be adequately sized to contain a 100-year storm. Provide sizing calculation for water and fire service. And number 5, provide a splitter island to differentiate between exit and entry.
And do we have anything?
That's it.
Nothing from the fire department? No. Okay. At this time then, I'd like to invite you up, have you give us an explanation of what we have and what we're looking at.
Sure. Good evening. For the record, my name is Gary Wayner. I'm the project engineer for Dr. Coughlin for the medical office building. I'd like to submit plans that reflect amendments in addressing the comments that were raised by the DPW and also by the police department. With me tonight is Charles Schmidt, who is the architect of record for the project, and Mr. Ralph Coughlin, who is Dr. Kevin Coughlin's father. Also, we have representatives from Associated Builders who are reviewing the project for possible involvement in the building and site work. We're here tonight to present to you a site plan for an 18,000 square foot, 2-level medical office building located at 250 North Main Street. The parcel is located to the west of North Main Street and is just north of Premier Source Credit Union and just south of the Condominium Trust, which is located approximately, their driveway is about 150 feet to the north. The site is vacant. There is one small foundation that was constructed many years ago. That will be removed and demolished and taken off-site. The site has been cleared and debrushed, though the brush is once again starting to grow back up. but there are no significant features on the site. There are no trees, stone walls, or large trees that would need to be taken down on the site. Topographically, there's about a 22-foot elevation difference between North Main Street and the northwest corner of the site. There's an upper terrace for about 1/3 of the distance back from North Main Street, and then drops approximately 10 to 12 feet to a lower area. That helps us in the two-level building, particularly with entrance on the lower level. The site has no bordering vegetated wetland. The blue line is the line locating the wetlands, as located by Pete Levesque. I almost said Pioneer, but it's Wetland Consultants Inc. now. After many years, it's changed. And so all of the work is outside of the buffer zone of the bordering vegetated wetlands. We recognize a notice of intent needs to be filed with the commission, and will be by Peter Levesque. We are within the riverfront area, however, we're not within the inner riparian. Only the outer riparian zone will be intruded upon, and no pavement is proposed for that area, only stormwater management tools, a retention basin, if you will. We're proposing to build one single office building to the front of the parcel, 2 levels, which Charlie will talk about. The site will be accessed by a single access driveway. The originally submitted plans had an entrance and an exit, if you will, double out, left and right hand turn, but no island. Following the roundtable and recommendation of DPW and also the police department, we've added a dividing island so that the traffic is better controlled. Also, we've cut back the radius because there was concern that fire department vehicles and larger vehicles would have a problem in making this direct 90-degree turn. So we have made that a wider radius. We have provided also a turnaround and drop-off at the rear for the lower level. There are 90 spaces as required by the zoning, and those are shown. We have a good number of upper level. We also have lower level, but also a sidewalk that provides access from going in either direction. There has been some concern about the driveway location. The police department indicated at one point that during the roundtable there was discussion about a second access. During the discussion, it was pointed out that adding another entrance here only provides additional concern out on the roadway, because you're looking at a fairly another drive entrance in fair proximity to a number of driveways. Our location also takes into account that if you come off, heading towards Springfield, you come off the light, go by CVS, you're climbing a slight hill. But there's a sight distance issue, so that by placing the driveway in this location, we provide more than adequate sight distance for the motoring public coming up that slight incline. So really that was the reasoning behind the driveway location. We did look at potentially having an exit-only driveway from the site at the rear of the site. Initially, we looked at, and Dr. Coughlin talked to Premier Source Credit Union and the funeral home, because currently now these two businesses share a common driveway, or a shared driveway that brings them in. It also exits out onto Westwood, and under easement, both businesses can use it. And so we were looking potentially to come off of our area here and to provide an access to Westwood, which would take some of the traffic off North Main. However, those negotiations did not prove fruitful, so that we have one single access and exit point at this time. I did call the people to the north and never got a return call. I think they would have had an issue with the number of parking spaces if they were to try to accommodate us with a cut-through, because their numbers appear to be somewhat less than if we took spaces away from them, they would have a problem in compliance with the number. All the utilities will be brought in off of North Main Street. We have added the manhole as requested by the DPW for access and cleaning purposes in the future. The building will be sprinklered. There's two services, both the water or potable and a fire service. Once the mechanical engineer sizes, we'll be happy to provide DPW with the sizing on that. Gas will be brought in from the street. Stormwater is managed with the standard, if you will, catch basin piping. Roof drainage goes through roof leaders to the piping in the parking area. And then all of the stormwater is managed in a retention basin at the rear of the site. It can accommodate up to the 100-year storm. As noted in DPW, we have been conservative in the use of the infiltration rates to make sure that the area will drain within the times required. We did do 3 test pits to verify the soils. Basically, you have a loamy sand and then a sand below, which gives for good infiltration and a good infiltration rate. In order to accommodate the grade work that we're proposing, there will be a short wall, about a 5-foot wall at its maximum height along the northerly tier, similar to what you now have for Premier Source. In order for Premier Source to have their drive-through for the banking purposes, a wall was constructed to accommodate the steep grade that we have on this site and they had on their site also. We have provided a landscaping and lighting plan. The amount of green space within the parking area is about 20% as opposed to the 12% required by the bylaw for interior green space. And we have the landscaping and lighting plan, and those really are the highlights for the building. And at this point, Charlie, I'd like to...
Sure. We can use your board.
Sure. I got you on here, I think, Charlie.
Oh, even better. Excellent. As Gary explained, the topos on this property are ideal for entrances, top and bottom, so that tenants there will be a staircase that connects the two. But the parking is, we provide the handicap parking at both levels. You're looking here at the Main Street elevation. As you enter the building, going down along the side, you'll note that I think the floor-to-floor is about 12 foot 3 inches. Gives us plenty of room for a spacious office and framing. We're also able to carry windowing around about 2/3 of the building at the lower level. So it's not, try to not have people call it a basement if we can. But the configuration inside allows for subdivision for tenants. There will be services at the lower level where it's into the bank. That's in this area, or right in this area here, where we'll have equipment for the sprinkler system and electric and gas entrances. The building is brick. It has trim wood simulated on both entrances. We have some gables up above to try and announce that to people who are looking for the entrance in the lot. The brick has, we have coined corners on the main building. It gives a little substance. A couple of row locks up above to add detail to the elevation. The corridors are rather short, go directly in, not to the end of the building. The other way they do the opposite, and then they're connected by a staircase. So the means of egress is satisfied for both levels in that way. Bathrooms on both floors. All will be enclosed, the stair and the bathroom pod in concrete block to mitigate sound migration. We'll probably be using Gypcrete on the floor, another sound enhancement, so it should be a very quiet building. You can see the building roof goes up, and then we have indications of cuts here that allows for rooftop equipment to be put below visible height inside that well, still above it, so that it doesn't sit in snow. And so there shouldn't be anything from Main Street that will be noticed as far as equipment on the roof. Standard shingles on the roof itself. I think that's about all I can tell you. Any questions?
George?
Not at this point.
Ted, any questions?
No, that's good.
Thank you.
George, what are your thoughts?
I think it's great to see that empty lot finally have something on it after all these decades of sitting there. And I'm happy that they were able to fit it, all the paved areas outside of Riverfront. I guess the only thing wasn't clear is whether or not the cul-de-sac is adequate from the point of view of the fire department. Have they commented on that?
They did, Paul took a look at that. It does not allow for their largest vehicle, but he felt that the fact that they can get in to the entrance almost with their vehicles, that it didn't pose a problem for him. They did not raise any concerns. I mean, we talked about it, but it was not raised as a concern because he can come in and he'll be almost to the entrance with the vehicle for fires to get them in.
So they have access, and after the fire is over, they can back out, basically,
Yes,
is what he said.
absolutely. And the building is sprinkler too, which I think goes along.
Yeah.
But yes, this is an
I haven't
easy
gotten
movement for their
anything from them.
longer truck.
Okay. That's the only thing I would say. I mean, we've got the parking. Traffic is obviously an issue on North Main Street already. I hear people complaining it takes them half an hour to get out of the parking lot. I don't think that's really true, but that's a journalistic expression from the editor of the Reminder.
Reminder.
Yeah.
We have asked for a waiver of the traffic study. During the conversation at the roundtable, it was felt that the study in and of itself is going to just prove what everybody knows at this point in time, that the building is going to add traffic to North Main Street.
Right.
And that there are issues on North Main itself in terms of capacity now. Will we add to it? Yes, but the study in and of itself is not going to tell them anything new.
Right. That's all I had.
Gary, I know at the round table, the fire department brought up that you're greater than a 90 degree when you enter, and they had great concern that they were not going to be able to swing the fire engine to even get it into the upper parking lot.
Right. What we did was while we added the island, which helps in terms of them getting in, but what we did is we cut back this radius significantly so that they don't have to cross. If there's cars parked here, they don't now have to swing across and bump the back end. With this radius, they now, with their larger trucks, they're not going across.
Like I mentioned, that was accomplished by relocating a parking space
Right.
that was proximate to the drive.
Yeah, there wasn't a space here, which limited our ability to cut the radius.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll get a nice clunk on the
I'm sorry.
table.
Couple of them.
I didn't realize it was gonna do that. I just wanted to look at the radius here.
Okay, now that we have our microphone back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, did we just receive these plans, the updated ones?
Yes.
Okay, because I really haven't had a chance to go through and look at any of the changes. And I know the fire department and all hasn't reviewed any of them. A matter of fact, we didn't even have the report from the fire department.
No.
I'm going to start, part of my concern is the traffic. This isn't just a straight-out office building where people come in the morning and they leave at night and that's it. Having it in the business zone where, whether it be medical, dental, you're going to have traffic in and out all day long. I think that's going to contribute a great deal to the actual traffic on North Main Street. And although I know you say the traffic study is only gonna tell us what we know. I mean, I would be looking for, how do we remediate some of the problems that exist there?
I think that you were party to that conversation, talking with Bob Parent, superintendent, that he was on the same plane, if you will, about the study, that potentially he would prefer to see the use of the money for the study used by the town in some shape or manner other than the study. In the interim between the roundtable, I did talk to John Furman from VHB, Vanessa Hangen, Bruceland, and also Jeff Pachulis of JSP, who have given estimates of the cost of the study. And I think that, based on talking with Bob briefly at that meeting, that we would be inclined to say allow the money to be used, rather than for the study, to be used for the fund that he was talking about, set up for the purposes of doing improvements on North Main Street.
And I mean, improvements could be a simple timing of the lights.
Absolutely. They can use, and from what I understand, there is a fund that they previously set up for Bay Path. Is it
Bay Path, as well as the medical facility, yeah.
Yeah.
We do have a number?
Venice Hangen was approximately 10,000. That's a verbal number, given the parameters, and JSP was around $6,500.
Speaking from personal experience, driving that almost every day, I do know that North Main is white. The biggest concern would be people turning left off of North Main into the parking lot, because that's what backs up traffic. But in fact, North Main Street is wide enough that if people are courteous in pulling to the left when they want to make a left turn, traffic gets by them. Because we see that at the senior center, we see it at the Reminder Building, we see it at the other medical building that's up there. They all have the same issue. And people, assuming people don't stop right in the middle of the lane, people go around them. So it seems to be safe to me.
Seems to be working, albeit slowly.
It's not ideal.
You know, there's no question. I mean, it has a large number of trips on it. And in fact, one of the discussions at the roundtable was that if you look at Shaker Road, what they've done in Shaker, which is wider, but they provided that center turn lane that provides that left or right-hand turn, and really allows the flow of traffic to go through. And that may be one thing that would be, capable of being done all along North Main with some of the money from the fund.
Ty, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. It says here from the police report, it would be therefore recommended that a second entrance be made to assist with traffic flow. You talked a little bit about the entrance. What about the second entrance that is being recommended here by the police department?
Yeah, we talked about that at the roundtable, and we pointed out to the police chief, who was there at the time, that he was talking about potentially putting another entrance located here and an exit, if you will, so that you have circular flow. And we pointed out the problem is that by grade, we worked very hard, and the wall shows you this, in order to make grades that accommodate both, handicapped accessible on the walk and also vehicles. This side of the building is much, much more problematic to make that kind of a change. But to me, more importantly, we talked about the fact that instead of one turning movements occurring on the street, you're now putting, or instead of one, you're now putting two locations, so that the motoring public has more of an issue in terms of watching out what's going on there. So, and Bob Parent was there and Dan Murphy was there, and we didn't get any pushback, again, correct me if I'm wrong, from DPW about having a second access point. And again, I point out that the location here provides the best sight distance to the north is not as much of an issue as sight distance to the south. And so that's why the positioning both for entrance and exit works well there.
Okay, but this is dated July 25th, so this is after when the roundtable took place.
I understand.
Yet it's still here in the notes.
If I could say
I just
something,
got that.
Gary's gone to a lot of trouble to have that be a sort of a level off area as you come up, rather than approaching the avenue at a slope. At that point, from that point, just directly inside, we drop pretty steadily at 5%, except that the handicap spaces would have to be at 2. All the way around the building, almost to the cul-de-sac. That's, above 5% is difficult for anybody to walk. It's the threshold for a handicap ramp, the 1 in 20 slope. So if we continue with that and then try to have an entrance to that northern point, we have about 6 feet, Gary, 6-foot drop inside of about 40 with no level area up above. It would be a dangerous situation, I feel. It would have been nice if we could get cooperation from the neighbors, but that's something that's in their control.
Yeah, that would be real nice. What was the issue there?
They have children there. They have not a daycare, but the people who work in the buildings, children are taken care of during the day.
They use the lower
In-house,
level.
yeah, and in-house, and it's their parking lot.
So to
They
have
go
traffic
right
going through their parking lot
at all
with the
times.
childcare facility, they were not receptive to it.
All right, okay, that's one question. The next one is, I just want to go through this list of 5. The manhole you put in, you already showed that, and you talked about that.
Right.
Improve, this is from the Dan Murphy. Improve access is recommended for equipment access to the forebay and infiltration basin. That's been taken care of?
In the plan submitted to you, yeah.
Okay, so
Gravel road.
number two has been taken care of. Number 3, infiltration rate is conservative, and the infiltration basin appears to be adequately sized, contained. Okay, so that 3 seems to be okay. Provide sizing calculation for water and fire service. Have you done that?
We have not, but the mechanical would have to do that with the building inspector prior to the start of any job, before pulling a building permit. We
All right.
show the 2 connections, and more than likely the fire is going to be a 6-inch
Yeah,
service.
Mr. Ridge, they're probably typical 6-inch
Six.
entrance for the sprinkler
But-
system, maybe 1.5 for the.
For the building.
For the water
So,
service.
That would be
so
fleshed
whatever
out.
we did, we'd have to just make sure that this is contingent upon his approval.
Correct.
I mean, Dan Murphy's.
Mhm.
And provide a splitter island to differentiate, whatever. I don't.
Yeah.
I see it's there, so that's good. Okay,
We did.
great.
That was the plans we had.
Boy, I really wish you could have gotten that entrance in the back.
I know Dr. Coughlin talked to both parties.
As I did.
And that's right. I'm sorry. I should have.
No, just,
So
I
there's
think
no
without the
chance even an
child issue,
emergency.
we might have had a shot at
Mhm.
having that granted to us as part of the easement. Because right now they share. Funeral home and Premier Source share their driveways.
Right.
and if you remember, Premier Source gave the funeral parlor their entrance area, because when Premier Source first went in there, it was their property that the funeral parlor was using for an entrance. And so they were going to be in trouble, the funeral parlor, if Premier Source says you can't use that entrance, it's our property. So in order to allow them to go out through the back on Westwood, Premier Source, they have swapped easements. So Premier Source gave the funeral parlor an easement for their entranceway, as did the funeral parlor gave Premier Source
Yeah, they worked
the
out an
entrance in
arrangement
the
where
back.
everybody was okay.
Right.
Now, thank you, Robin. Did you take a look at having the driveway go around, all the way around the building, as opposed to the cul-de-sac? And maybe it's
Grade-wise, again, you've got over 10 feet in a very short distance. We were looking at almost 20% on this side of the building to try to get up off of that little round and up to the building. Because we have such a short, you can see that the
15 foot
grade lines
elevation
here,
change.
how they drop and how tight we are.
Right.
That in order to try to get a secondary in here, even with the wall set up that Premier Source has, we were, I think, at around 18%.
which-
18%?
We're using 3 sides of the building to get it at 5, so the 4th side is gonna be,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have 22 feet of elevation difference from the southeast corner, if you will, to the northwest corner.
Yeah, it's a tough site.
Yeah. So we stretched out the grades, if you will, with fill and with raising. That's why we need the wall on the north.
Holy cow.
Gary, in the very front of North Main Street, you've got 2 magnolia trees. What distance are those from the actual street
Oh, for the plantings?
for the plantings? You got 2 magnolia stellatas, I think.
Where are we here?
Yeah.
Magnolia here and here.
Yep.
Those are the 2.
I'm concerned with, as you go to pull out and you turn left to look down the road with oncoming traffic.
That we might have an issue.
That you'll have an issue.
I don't believe so, again, because you're gonna, unfortunately, unfortunately, they're gonna pull out across the sidewalk, and the minute they do that, they'll get that line of sight. And the people coming, will, you know, should be easily able to see the people coming out of there.
This is going to be a hard site to pull out and turn left.
Yes, absolutely.
Really difficult.
But, again, march down the street, in the sense that, you know, Premier Source is 200 feet, roughly 200 feet from here to their driveway, and they have that issue. The only good part of that is that people going into Long Meadow or whatever will sneak out the back and jump on the west
Or
one.
you sneak out the back, go to the light, and then turn left.
And they could do that, yeah.
So off of the sidewalk, do you have a general distance, how far off of the sidewalk it is? I know the sidewalk's 5 feet wide.
Yeah, and the sidewalk actually
Was it 5 or 4?
is right on the, within the property itself. The walk was built in the, off the right-of-way, because I think the town took an easement for the walk purposes at one point.
Well, that would actually make the trees closer to the street line then. You would only have your
Well,
width
no,
of the
it
walkway,
actually
right?
it pushes them back this way, because the walk is in front of the trees, and then you have a very narrow tree belt to the pavement area.
Right.
So it's actually pulling the trees back.
And I mean, I go by Stop and Shop that's down there, and the Bradford pear trees are growing over the walkways and stuff, and magnolias are a lot wider.
I mean, we'd be happy to change if you got a
Yeah, Ralph, you're looking for
recommendation.
something with a higher canopy?
Definitely a higher canopy. The magnolia is lower, and I'm just afraid as you go to pull out, you're gonna turn to the left and be like, I can't see, and keep edging into the road. And I mean, George, do you have any thoughts as far as?
I can't see.
I agree with you. Having a low-growing shrub or tree there, I think, could be a real problem in a number of places in town where, like, just as an example, on Summers Road, when you're trying to get in there from the cutoff below DPW, there's a huge hedge, and you can't see anything until you're halfway into the road.
Right.
You know, that sort of thing.
We can certainly change the species there, something to more of a spire tree.
Exactly.
With a higher canopy.
Do you have any recommendations, Ralph? You're
Yeah,
the tree guy.
I mean, down there, like I said, they do have the Bradford pears, or whether it be a maple or something, but as long as the whole canopy is kept up.
Raised up.
Obviously, we know if you don't maintain a tree, you know, you're gonna end up with problems, but. Detention or retention basin? What are we looking at for exfiltration on a typical 1 or 2 inch storm? How long is it going to be retaining?
Based on our calculations with the sand that we have as the subsoil and the soil in place, we had to do a calculation, and this is about the third one I had to look up, but I believe that drawdown analysis shows that it will be totally drawn down on a 100-year storm in 30 hours. 30 hours. So, and that's the standard is 72. you're allowed to drain it within a 3-day period, but in this
Right.
case, we're
Pretty good. Under your storm, least of my concern is gonna be.
How quickly that
I have
goes
more
down.
things on my plate.
I think everyone would.
What's the elevation change going into the retention pond? Is it over 4 feet, or,
Yeah, it's a little bit over 4.
and are you looking at doing fencing around it?
We were not because of the commercial nature, and the fact that people are going to the building with a purpose, and there's no area to draw children to at this point.
Except the brook,
Huh?
except the Pecusik Brook.
They would probably be playing here before they'll play in a detention basin.
You can't cross it at that point. And, I mean, we haven't had a single problem with the very steep fall to the very deep basin behind the professional building, just this side of Stop and Shop. They just have a wooden rail fence out back.
Wood rail fence, yeah.
And they've got a deck, in fact, out there, and that goes down, I don't know, 10, 15 feet.
At least, yeah.
We've never had a
Okay.
problem back
It's one
there.
of the ones we designed the deepest. I'm not sure I'd do that again. Yeah.
Piling of snow right into the retention basin with no fencing around it?
Well, snow management is always a problem, but we do have a small area here for snow storage. You're not supposed to use the basin for it.
That was my point.
I heard it.
I mean, my main concern is if you use it for snow, which many people do, it's the salts and all that come off of the road. Obviously, in the winter, you have a problem with the ground being frozen, hence the salts stay suspended, and the next thing you know, they're overflowing down towards the conservation area. Have you, are you going through conservation, or have you been through
We
conservation?
will be going through them, yeah, with a notice, even though all of the work, there's no pavement, and the point sources are outside of the riverfront area also. Again, but the basin itself is within the outer riparian zone, so we would be going to them.
When do you hope to break ground?
I would hope if the numbers come in correctly, he probably would like, probably late fall.
I'm just gonna bring this up to the board. What's the board's thought, knowing that we're missing 2 members and we are just seeing this for the first time and they have not?
Well, it would be good to have some more time to review it. We're at the end of July. If we were to continue it to the first meeting in August, we'd still have plenty of time to get this approved for.
Which is the 3rd.
Yeah, I would like to give the other members a chance to at least see the plans, which they have not had that opportunity.
They would have to read the minutes and read the reports
Yeah,
and make sure that they're up to date on all of the goings-on here tonight.
Absolutely.
And they'd have to sign an affidavit saying that they did
Yeah.
that, so. But
Tide,
I mean, you
what's your
haven't seen
thought
the
on
new
it?
plans.
I'm just
I don't
now
think it's gonna delay them at all, because they have to go through conservation anyways.
Right.
But it gives us more time, the guys, people that are missing, some more time to look at it. The other thing is, I'd like to make sure, verify that the cul-de-sac, size of the cul-de-sac is acceptable to either the town engineer or the fire department.
and also the fire department agrees that the radius in front is sufficient to allow them to get in there.
I mean, we'd have a catastrophe if there was a fire and you couldn't get trucks in there properly.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's why,
Right.
I think it's important to make sure that those two things
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, I think we need the fire department's written agreement that those things are acceptable.
Yep.
So I would make a motion to continue.
Motion.
When is your next meeting?
August 3rd.
3rd?
That's
2 weeks
what-
from tonight.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from
Yep.
tonight. And that, no, it's 1 week.
Second would be the Tuesday, right?
Oh, no.
Actually, we're going to have a
Second
discussion
Tuesday, right.
on possibly changing the night of our meetings a little bit later on,
Okay, but
I thought that, yeah, maybe that's where I am. Let me see.
probably.
August 9th, I'm sorry.
Okay,
It's 2
but
weeks.
Conservation won't meet until the 10th.
I'm not going to be here.
Well, we haven't received anything from Pete yet
For,
for Concom.
yeah, but
Is it a
one
notice
doesn't
or?
drive the other.
Is it a notice or a determination?
No, but we'd still be meeting before Conservation to approve it, and I would like to get something written from the fire department.
So if we approved it that
August
night,
9th, I'm
the
sorry,
following
August
night,
9th.
you go to Conservation anyways.
I think what Gary's saying is he's not going to be able to attend the meeting in case there's any additional questions.
I'll make sure I have them before then. I mean, I tried to get the fire department to, this week, but they didn't respond. I don't know if they're on vacation or not.
Well, Charlie and I can, are you around?
Yes.
And I can, you're the one.
Okay, George has made a motion to continue it to
August
our
9th.
next meeting, which is August 9th.
What time, Robin, would that be?
6?
6, okay.
And is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion on it? I would only say I think it's important that all 5 members get a chance to review it, seeing so the plans have changed.
I
With
didn't
that,
open the
I'll call
hearing
for,
to the public before.
I did not.
What?
I did not open it to the public.
I don't see any public, but,
Well,
Well,
I will
we do
open it
have
now
some.
to the public then, if there's any comments from the public with regards to what's been presented tonight. Seeing none,
Okay.
I will bring it back to the board for a
Open
continuation.
meeting law.
Yep, which has already been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to delay you at all because your Conservation meeting's the next night anyways.
Okay.
All set. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Under new business, Tide, we have a request for a waiver of site plan.
Okay, I'd love to read it.
Can we address the traffic study so Michael can?
We could do that, actually.
I would appreciate that. Because we're not accepting the traffic study. Did you see what happened to the elastic? I always lose the elastic.
I thought you shot it across the room.
All right. Oh, yeah, here it is, right here. Just that you agreed to the scope, the expanded scope for the traffic study. That's all you're agreeing to.
Okay,
You're not agreeing to accept it, you're not agreeing to anything.
well, let's bring Michael up.
They just need
Hi,
to
Michael, how are you?
George.
Welcome.
Michael, great to see you.
So you came in to have a conversation with regards to the traffic study for the possible project between East Long Meadow and Long Meadow.
Right.
Perfect.
So if you recall, at the last joint meeting that we had, which was a while ago,
Excuse me, gentlemen,
Gary.
could you take it out in the hall?
Sorry.
Sorry.
no problem. So if you recall, at the last meeting that we had, we agreed that we would ask, because I had already engaged Fuss and O'Neill early on in the process to look at the Long Meadow site.
Right.
And they had accumulated a great deal of data. We thought it made sense to have Fuss and O'Neill provide an additional scope of services, if you will, or an amended scope of services that would incorporate the East Long Meadow side of the development, the skilled nursing facility and the assisted living facility. And so in that discussion with Fuss and O'Neill, both Steve Crane, the town administrator and, town manager for Long Meadow, and Bob Pierrett, your town engineer and now acting town manager, worked with Fuss and O'Neill and actually pretty greatly expanded that scope so that there's a great deal of information gathering in addition to what has already been gathered. Additional intersections are going to be looked at, and some immediate mitigation needs or perceived needs will also be looked at. I just assume have the results that I heard these guys have and pay money into the mitigation fund instead of having to go through the traffic mitigation plan, or the study. But I understand the need for us to look at our intersection. And we want it to function well. And so if that means accumulating a lot of new data, looking at other intersections to make sure that any effects, that there are no further effects in East Long Meadow, we're amenable to doing that. And so I think after a good deal of back and forth and negotiation, not necessarily negotiation, I don't want to use that word, but discussion and advice from Bob and from Stephen Crane. Steve Severi submitted probably about the third revision to this, and it's accepted. To my understanding, it's acceptable to Bob.
Yep.
Bob drove a lot of this, by the way.
Yes.
And then Stephen Crane also drove certain issues that he perceives as being critical to the needs of Long Meadow. So collectively, they all came up with what they believe is a very reasonable and comprehensive scope of services that Fuss and O'Neill is willing to provide. So I'm just coming tonight because I knew that Bob and Robin had worked diligently on this with Stephen Crane and with Steve Severi from Fuss and O'Neill, and I just wanted to see if there was any questions. And like Robin said, it's not like you're accepting the results of the Fuss and O'Neill information that they'll present, but just to agree, or do you agree to proceed with the scope of services? And I believe the last iteration that I saw, Fuss and O'Neill was hoping to turn around product in about 4 weeks.
Yes.
And again, I've said this time and again, and I'm not being critical, but time is of the essence, and we've literally lost 3 weeks since our last meeting, just kind of trying to settle on scope. So I'm really hoping that we can get the project moving forward, and we can't do that obviously and logically until we have the Fuss and O'Neill report.
And one of Deb's requirements was that we moved out past 5 years, which this will do. I think this will move out till 23.
2023.
2023. So that moves out further. And if when you receive the results of this scope, if there are areas that you need to expand on, then it gives you the opportunity to say, especially during a peer review, if you decide that that's the way you want to go, to expand it even further. But this they haven't started anything. We need a start. And we've all been working really hard, and it would be a lot of wasted time and effort if this isn't just agreed upon, that this is going to be the scope. We've tried to cover all the intersections that are fair to this problem.
Right.
Some of Deb's issues were the end of Benton Drive. It's undeveloped property. It's a 40-acre parcel. We're not sure even what the use would be. It would be unfair to this project to require them to do
I
something
agree with that.
specific when we don't even know what the project is going to be. If there's going to be a project on 40 acres at the end of Benton, then it's up to them to do
Right.
their own traffic, study and or mitigation.
Yeah, I mean, and
to help
it's
everything.
been vacant for years, and it could very well be vacant for many more years.
Right.
So-
And I think that this is fair to East Long Meadow and Long Meadow, and to the people that are trying to do the study.
Now, this is all acceptable to Bob.
Oh, absolutely. We've been working really hard on it.
All right.
I guess
And
my,
it's been gone back and forth a lot of times.
I guess my question comes in with working with Long Meadow.
Yep.
And I know the traffic's a huge issue with Long Meadow. I know Stephen Crane has had a great deal of input into this.
Yes, he has.
But I also know that it sounded as though the planning board wasn't sure if they wanted to proceed with Fuss and O'Neill, is it?
Well, they're
And-
going to be presented the same thing you are next Tuesday.
Okay.
They meet next, Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Wednesday.
So they meet next Wednesday. But just, whether or not they want to, and, you do, I think you need to take the lead and either accept it or deny it, whichever you choose to
Well,
do.
Irrespective of whether
Who
they...
does the
Who
report?
does it, the question is the scope.
Exactly.
And I am happy with the scope. It
Good.
includes all of my concerns, particularly the intersections I was concerned about and the turning issues I was concerned about. They're in the scope. Scope looks good to me.
Thank you, because we worked really hard to take your thoughts into mind.
Sure.
And we really did give Deb's a lot of thought, you know, to be true to her.
Mhm.
However, it's just not fair to this project.
No, I agree.
I agree with what George said.
Yes.
Right. I agree. Like I said, just from being here tonight, I took a quick look through it, and it hit everything that I was thinking of, and,
In fact, I can't think of anything that should be added. I mean, I think these intersections are fine. It's a good list.
do we
Good
need
list.
a vote
Yes,
to?
please do.
I'll make a motion to state that we agree with the scope of services presented
For the traffic study.
for the traffic study.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will put an email out first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Good.
We greatly appreciate all your help, and I know you folks.
No,
have
we
been
appreciate you
wonderful to
coming
work
in
with,
and-
so if there's any questions that I can ever answer for you, and, you know, I've said to Robin and I've said to Bob, we want this intersection to function as well as it can, and we know that we're not the one that caused the issue, but we know we have to be part of the solution, so we're more than willing to do that. We just need to try to expedite the process to figure out what that solution may be. And, you know, the solution may well be two-pronged. It may be some mitigation efforts on the, you know, immediately as part of our project, and then probably a bigger picture going forward. I don't know necessarily what that might be, but certainly we understand that we're going to do everything we can to provide whatever we can in terms of our help. Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate your cooperation.
Thank you very
Robin,
much.
for your
You're
help.
welcome.
Yep.
Good night.
Okay, new business?
New business, which are we
We're
on?
going to go back to the request for waiver of site plan review. Bruce Electric, 75 Gates Ave. I'll let Tide read the last name.
Okay, yeah, that last name, I'm gonna have Robin help me with it.
Yeah.
Kusno.
Okay, request for waiver of site plan, property owner is Lauren Cusino,
There we go.
25 Gates Ave. Phone numbers are listed here. Name of proposed business is Bruce Cusino Electric. Owner of business, Bruce Cusino, 75 Gates Ave, East Long Meadow. Property address is the same. Property district is commercial, is allowed use. Proposed hours of operation are 9 to 5. Number of employees, including owner, is 1. Summary of business, self-employed electrician, works out of homes to various towns and cities, no material storage at the house. No commercial vehicle stored at the home. Home use for phone and computer. The application has been signed and dated July 21st, 2016.
I'm sorry, what was the zone?
Commercial, C.
Residential C.
Residential C, RC, okay.
I'm like Gates Ave, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know any
Gates
commercial up
Ave.
there. Okay.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is
A home office.
Home office.
Make a motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Sounds like a simple, straightforward home office. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll keep track for Robin.
Okay, waiver site plan, Storage Pro East.
Yeah, request for waiver site plan and signage, Storage Pros East.
See if we can find that here.
I'm sorry.
I'll let you find it.
You had trouble hearing it.
Yep. We approved the home office at 75 Gates Avenue
Okay.
with a 3-0 vote.
Can you tell me who did the vote?
George made the motion, Tide seconded it. I'm keeping notes for you.
Oh, thank you.
And now we're on to the request for waiver of site plan review for Storage Pros East.
Storage Pros, here we go.
Okay, great. Request for waiver of site plan. Property owner is Storage Pro East Long Meadow LLC. Owner's name and address is 30665 Northwestern Highway, Farmington Hills, Michigan. Phone numbers are listed here. Name of proposed business is Storage Pro East Long Meadow. Owner of business is Storage Pro East Long Meadow LLC. Business owner's address is the same as the above. Property address is 182 Benton Drive, East Long Meadow. Property district is Industrial Garden Park. It isn't allowed use. Proposed hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 6, Saturday 8:30 to 8:30 to, not listed here, Sunday 11 to 3. Number of employees, including owner, is 2 workers employed by the property management CubeSmart. Date of last parking plan is August 1st, 1999. See attached. Summary of businesses rental of self-storage units. The application has been signed and dated July 18th, 2016.
Robin, do we actually have a contact person, or is it just a company? It says business owner's name.
There is a David Levenfield, authorized representative of the owner.
Then I have a telephone number.
Okay, perfect.
So this is a change in ownership?
Yes.
Same use, they're not asking at this point for any expansion or new building?
No, they're not.
Correct, okay. Make a motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I second it.
I think it's just straightforward, it's change of
Yeah, just change of
ownership.
name.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have the signage for the same location.
Alrighty then. There does not appear to be a sign application. The application is the building application. However, if you want to address it, it's very clear, they're very good on these. This is the ground sign. And this is the building sign. Their square footage is absolutely perfect. They have it here, remove existing,
Well, we have a ground sign that's 60 inches by 120 inches. The top height of it would be 15 feet off of the ground. So you're looking at,
Very good, George.
what's that, 5 feet by 10 feet for 50 square feet, which is allowed.
And it's gonna be a lot smaller than what's there, which is great.
That's
And then-
actually what, Ralph, if you remember, you came to my office one day and you did the measurements on that when we were having difficulty with it.
Absolutely.
And those are the exact measurements. Now, the ground sign, it shows that it's 10 feet off the property line, which you'll remember in 2014, the sign bylaw was changed to allow in the industrial garden district the ground signs to be 10 feet off of the roadway, because most of the buildings were set 75 feet off the road. And the signage required that the signage was 75 feet off the road. And a lot of the buildings were having trouble with their delivery trucks. The big tractor trailer trucks would go by the building and then have to back up. So that bylaw did change. This shows it 10 feet off the road. It's no larger than it's supposed to be, I don't believe.
No.
It's not more than 50 square
Right,
feet.
it's exactly
And
50.
it's right on the mark.
Do we want to take this as 2 separate signs? One
Yes.
on the building
And I will
a
make sure
ground
that
sign?
they fill out the actual planning board sign application, but it's all right here with the square footage, and it couldn't be clearer than it is on the
So make a motion to approve the ground sign.
I'll second that.
And further discussion would be contingent strictly upon them filling out the correct application for the sign.
And contingent on
along-
the approval of the building inspector.
I was
Yeah.
getting to it. And the payment. Any further discussion on it? All those in favor of the approval of the ground sign, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then we have a building sign which measures 2 foot by 5 foot. It is a small awning that it looks like it sticks out 36 inches from the front edge of the building.
I'll make a motion to approve that, again, subject to the approval of the building inspector, receipt of the application and the fee.
And is there
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I do have the fee right here, so,
Okay.
Okay,
but I will have
that's,
them fill out
that's
the
awesome.
normal.
I keep forgetting I have to second tonight.
Yes. Okay. Discuss
That's done.
that's done. Do you want to have George?
I have been
Yes.
asked to serve on the committee that is going to review the general bylaws. And I thought it'd be a good idea to also take a look at the zoning bylaw to see if it's in compliance with the charter. And with Robin's help, we identified 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instances of mention of the Board of Selectmen in the zoning bylaw. And so these are suggested changes to the zoning bylaw. Here, I know what they are. Basically, all of them replace the term Board of Selectmen with Town Manager, because that's the executive. And that relates to appointing the ZBA to who you go to if you need to. The ZBA needs to have legal approval for legal recourse and things like that. The one thing that was really odd in there was that for elderly residential, which is Brownstone Gardens, there's a requirement that the plan originate through the Board of Selectmen, which really made no sense, but that was done back in 1974.
Right, yeah.
So I have no idea what the politics were back then. I suggest we change that to planning board, so that if Brownstone decides to put another building up, or if we decide to create another elderly residential district, the plans would have to be approved by the planning board, not by the town manager, which makes more sense.
Right.
I agree.
So what I'm going to suggest is take a look at those. If we're happy with them, we should ask Robin to schedule a public hearing at some point before too long, because we'd have to do the public hearing, and then after the public hearing, we would present it to the town council for approval.
And then it goes to the AG, like it always did from town meeting.
Yeah. So these are all basically administrative changes. They're not substantive. But
Right.
we, without making the changes, we're referring to an authority that no longer exists.
Right.
So it makes things difficult.
I'm just curious, I remember something in the charter. Do we have to do each one of these basically as a separate change to
That
be
would-
voted on separately by the council?
I don't think so, because it works the same way it would work with the town meeting.
I think it would go section by section.
Yeah, we can do it section by
Yeah.
section. It's
And
not
the
a
only
big
reason
deal.
I'm asking is they may not like the fact that the planning board is being put as authoritative, but they like the rest of it. I'm not sure.
Fine, we can do it,
And-
we can do it section by section. It doesn't. it's not-
But it absolutely
Either that or
makes sense,
We
George.
can say,
Oh.
like we used to, delete sections, ba 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 ba, and replace with ba 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 ba
Yeah,
ba ba ba.
that would be the way to do it.
I think we'll come up with it. Ask Jim Donahue for his guidance
Yeah.
and how we should submit it to the town council.
We'd submit it exactly, I've called the AG just to be sure
Yeah.
on all this, because
Exactly the same.
I was uncertain. He said exactly the same, as she said,
Yep.
exactly the same way that
Okay.
we would if it were town meeting, only we don't have to wait.
Yep.
The planning board would have to present it, you would have to give your verbal recommendation or in writing,
Mhm.
because the planning board, it's required that you provide a report. It always has been.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's always been the planning board that's presenting it, so you never had to do a written report. And then once they approve it, if they approve it, then it goes to the AG, who has 90 days to approve it or not approve it. And they take the full 90
And
days.
for these, I don't see any reason why, and
No,
they would
and there
not.
are, like I mentioned to George before, there are a couple of other ones. And do you want to continue with the zoning review?
We haven't met in probably a year.
I have a couple that I think would be a good thing, especially with having a new zoning enforcement officer. For example, the one that I've been looking at, because people have been having trouble with in-the-ground pools. Long Meadow has a great diagram, like Ralph did the fences, and it shows the pool, an in-the-ground pool, has to be 15 feet off the property, the rearmost portion of the building, the main structure. which makes sense because your walkway is 4 feet. But it has to also be 15 feet from the rear property line,
Right.
which I think is good. But it's a diagram that the building zoning
Clear and
enforcement officer
concise.
could give the, which we don't have. Our swimming pool bylaw is so vague that I've received 6 calls this week on how can I put a, in-ground pool in, even from pool installers
companies,
that
yeah,
are
exactly.
just, uncertain.
Well, what I suggest is, Robin, put together your these are my recommendations, put together your recommendations. Let's hold one hearing.
One hearing, yeah.
Where we only have to advertise it once.
Yes, because
Okay.
it's expensive.
And, I'm just, this
Right.
is no urgency on these things, but if we get your recommendations by the next meeting, we can then schedule the hearing for the following meeting and get it done.
Yep.
Perfect.
And that way, we're not bothering the council with issues prior to the end of August, let's say.
Right.
When they're still,
Or piecemealing them. too,
Right.
yeah,
so-
we want to do it all at once,
Okay.
as we can.
I
And
think
that
that's
way, we only have to
wonderful.
advertise one hearing, one
Yeah,
ad,
yeah,
which is
'cause we
cheaper.
we
you
need
know.
to watch that.
Yep.
Now, what are your feelings on the zoning review committee? We'll give it
Are
some
there-
thought.
yeah,
You can-
let's
you can
think
decide
about
it
it
another
before-
Think
time,
about it.
but-
It's not,
I mean, we haven't met with the
Because I've
town
also gotten
council
some
yet,
phone
the
calls
planning
from
board,
them,
and,
and, they want to know what's going
yeah.
on. Not you, because you haven't called me, but,
Maryland.
I agree. I definitely think, like I said, going forwards, there may be some thoughts, some issues, some
Yeah.
areas where we'd like them to look further into it.
all right,
And-
while we're talking zoning, we also have a design review committee that is totally defunct
right.
and has been for many years. With new construction, the one we had tonight, it would be an issue for the design
Design
review
review.
committee. However, we don't have a design review committee.
Right.
I would like you to think about whether you want to keep it or whether you just want me to wipe it out, because we need to have our zoning bylaws be something that can be enforced.
I agree. And I will need to review that section again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because it's a
There's
big
quite,
section.
it's a good-sized section.
It's a good-sized section, but most of it has to do with what design review consists of. Okay, whether that is conducted by a separate committee, or whether it's conducted by the planning board, is the question I think we need to ask. Okay? Can the planning board act as the design review committee? And because if you appoint another 5 people to that, first of all, you got to get the appointees, and second of all, you got to get them to meet.
I agree, and that was what happened with the last one. But there's certain things that need to be addressed if you're going to check the design.
Yeah.
I would be in favor of the planning board also being the design review committee for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
We used to require samples of the facade.
Yeah,
I agree.
We used to
think-
do a lot
I've had
of
to submit
stuff
them
that's been
lots
left
of
by the
times to other
wayside.
towns.
Yeah.
If you could give that some thought too for our next-
Absolutely, absolutely. This is just a start. you
Yep.
know.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
No, that looks good, George. Like I said, bringing them up into compliance would be great. We have a couple other administrative issues. I brought it to Robin's attention.
Excuse me.
I remember in the past that Visual Changes moved to Shaker Road, and that we had approved a building sign which faces Shaker Road and a ground sign. And when I drove by, there's a third sign, extremely large, facing the side of the building. It is not over an entryway, and
And it was not approved. I mean, it wasn't.
not
in the
approved, no
application.
sign permit. But the problem I have right now is we have no zoning enforcement officer. We have a building inspector that is temporarily filling in while we're
Yep.
looking for one. I know regulations state that if we file a complaint, the complaint must be acted on within 14 days. So going forwards, I'd like the board to consider filing a complaint once we get a zoning enforcement officer in place.
I fully agree with that. I would also suggest that consider sending a letter to Visual Changes,
That's exactly what I had
telling
said.
them that we are aware of the sign is there and that a complaint will be filed. And giving them therefore the option of remediating the situation without having to have a complaint filed against them, without subjecting themselves to
I
a
agree.
potential fine. Okay?
I've got the letter half written. I was interrupted way too many times today to have it finalized,
Yeah.
so, yeah, you were one of them. No, I'm kidding. But I would like to finish it up and then send it to you all for, just not a group approval, but your individual approvals, and then I can ask Ralph to come in and sign it.
Yeah. Perfect. Sounds good.
That sounds good.
Excellent.
Bylaws, Maple Street,
Manny.
Robin, well, two other things. Where do we stand with the property on Maple Street that we repealed Long Meadow Landscaping's waiver, and Tree 413 was in, we had sent them a letter.
They have ignored your request, and Amy, through the health department, has issued a complaint and a threat of fines. And that is up, their time limit, it's either tomorrow or the next day. And instead of removing the pile, they added another higher one.
Oh, lovely.
So Amy is dealing with, OSHA came in, issued a $2,800 fine. I'm not sure where that is. I don't believe they've met the requirements of OSHA. Our fire department is involved in it. The fire marshal is involved in it. And now our health department is involved in it, as well as the town as a whole, because it's an issue. The logs are posing a threat to the rail trail. If one of those logs starts to roll, as you know, a log pile is going to roll. And OSHA couldn't deal with the safety issues with regard to pedestrians because OSHA is strictly employee. So they dealt with employee, and we as a town, through Amy, our health director, are dealing with the dangers for the health and welfare of the people on the rail trail.
Well, that's another case where when we get a zoning enforcement
Absolutely.
officer, that should be near the top of the list.
And it actually was and was ignored, and
I understand that, but that's
why we are
passed.
where we are.
And-
So the people on Maple Court, the business owners are very concerned because of the brush and of fire.
Yeah.
And mulches, it can internally combust. God help us if a cigarette gets thrown in there or something, it's going to be nothing but just a bonfire. So they're very concerned about it because it's right up against a lot of their buildings, so.
Should we issue another letter to them stating that we will be filing a complaint with a new zoning enforcement officer?
Yeah, I think the same way we do with Visual Changes.
And Amy is, if she doesn't get the money for the fine, she's going to take them to court, so.
Good.
We have another sign that was brought to our attention. No permit's been taken for it.
No.
It is I believe it's Old Meadows Health. No, the old Club
Club Meadows.
Meadows. And they had come in front of us for a name change or something, didn't they, Robin?
They came before
But
the
not a sign.
planning board for a sign change in October of 2015. At that particular time, they had not changed their name legally from their liquor license. And so this board told them that they would not agree to a sign that doesn't match their name until they changed their liquor license. That was left, and they ended up eventually changing their liquor license and never coming back to the planning board for a sign. Now there's a banner, and there's the canopy with the brand-new sign plastered on it. so.
Well, again, send them a letter.
I'm thinking the same type of letter.
Yeah.
Putting them on notice that, yes, we know about it and we will be.
And I do, like I mentioned to Ralph earlier, and I'm not sure if the other two of you heard me, but the sign, I called to find out how this happened, to make sure they didn't have a building permit, because the building department is defunct right now. So there was no way of me checking. There was nothing in Munis other than what we had done,
Okay.
in 2015. And I let Mr. Coelho know that it hadn't been permitted. And within 15 minutes, the sign company called me and said, we had nothing to do with this. We know what we're supposed to do. We're going to come before you. He did make the banner. He admitted to making the banner, but he said he didn't know what they were going to do with it. So he apologized for that, but he's going to come in for that too. So they are showing concern that they did something, but the sign company had nothing to do with the logo on the canopy.
Yeah, okay.
But again, I think a letter would be
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yep.
Another issue I wanted to bring up with the town council, they are now meeting on Tuesday evenings, which directly conflicts with us. So I would like to know the board's thought of possibly moving our meeting date to Wednesdays, the 1st and the 3rd,
Right.
which is opposite of what conservation is. They are the 2nd and the 4th. And that way there we don't conflict with any meetings.
Well, my understanding is that the town council is meeting once or twice a month. I think it's the 2nd and 4th.
They have to meet every month.
They have to meet every month. I thought they agreed that they were going to meet on the 2nd and 4th.
I believe so.
So if we met on the 1st and 3rd, saying the Tuesday, I think that would be, first of all, that would be great because it would keep us on a twice a month schedule. Now,
Right.
I think we can meet all our statutory requirements, meeting twice a month rather than every other week.
It's up to the planning board, yeah.
I mean, well, there's nothing that says after somebody files, we have to act
Right.
within X number of days that twice a month would get us into trouble on.
Well,
Most of it's like 45 days or
Yeah.
60.
that's when our decision has to be made.
Right.
And that's after the public hearing.
Yeah.
The only problem with every 2 weeks, as you know,
Twice a
when,
month.
I mean,
Yeah,
huh?
right.
Twice a
okay.
month.
Is when the reminder moved to Thursday publication rather than Monday, any plans that come in order to schedule a public hearing, rather than needing 2 weeks lead time, I need 3. Because it comes out to be 13 days with it being published on Thursday rather than Monday, rather than the 14 days that's required. So it may push a special permit hearing or a site plan an additional week past. I'm not sure. It all depends. But it's 3
We've been
weeks
meeting
out
on
right now.
Tuesdays and it's been working.
We've been meeting.
It's
And
3
it's-
weeks out right
yeah.
now,
Yeah.
but we've been meeting every other Tuesday also.
But
So for
we've
the
been
months that
meeting
have
on
5
Tuesdays
weeks.
forever now, and I think several of us have sort of built our lives around.
Oh, that's fine.
Tuesday
And I-
nights.
I have no
Yeah.
problems.
I'd like to keep it on Tuesdays if we could.
And
I would
I
too.
will double check with the council for your next meeting
Okay,
and find out exactly when they're gonna be meeting.
okay.
as best as they know.
Yeah, because they're not required to meet twice a month.
They put it in on their first meeting that they were going to definitely meet,
Twice a month,
well, the once a month on a Tuesday.
particular Tuesday.
And
Once a month on
then,
Tuesday,
well,
that's
then
what I
they
thought.
said that they would be picking up the second time.
Right, at
So-
least until they get things under control. And I understand that, you know.
And I do realize that I believe they said the 4th Tuesday of the month, or it was a specific Tuesday
Right,
and
I'll
not
check
just
what that
every
is
4
to make
weeks.
sure that
Yeah.
we're not.
And that way there, we don't conflict with them. Actually, I'm sure LCAT would enjoy that a lot more also,
Yeah.
and not having to be in
Well, in the
multiple
planning
spots
board,
at
there's
once.
gonna be
and-
times when you're gonna wanna appear before them, for example, with the zoning
Absolutely.
issues.
Well, yeah,
You're gonna have to cancel your meeting.
and I agree. And
Yep.
if there's, you know, if there's a fifth Tuesday in a month, which happens occasionally,
Yeah.
and we need to meet on the fifth Tuesday,
We can
we
always
can
add
always
one.
do that,
Yeah.
okay? You know, we can always add a meeting.
We're the only board that meets every other week. Any other board is
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
especially.
Right.
yeah.
I just would prefer Tuesdays because I've sort of built my life around
Yep.
Tuesday.
All right,
I-
I'll check
Yeah, I
to
have
make
two.
sure that I can
Yep.
solidify the dates that they're gonna meet. And then
Perfect,
let you know
and
next
we'll go
week.
through it at the
Perfect.
next meeting and take a vote on
Sounds
the
good.
change.
All right.
Is there anything else? Robin, is there anything else that,
Oh, minutes of June 14th?
and did Donna make changes that we had
She,
spoken
She,
about? I
sent them
didn't.
out today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of June 14th.
This isn't the one we were talking about. This is June 14th. This is.
We were talking about the 28th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the night I wasn't there, when you did the physical, the massage therapist.
Yeah, that was a pretty straightforward
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to make sure that you could
Oh,
say
okay.
that
Yeah.
name, so I could hear you say that.
I got through.
Okay, a motion's been made. Is there a second, Tide?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the joint meeting with Long Meadow. Ralph
Right.
Bennett Reach joint meeting with Long Meadow Planning Board and Superintendent of Public Works.
Okay.
So.
George,
she
did you have a
make-
chance?
I did not get, I got them today supposedly with changes. I did not get a chance to read through everything. I read through the important parts where we had votes, and I had no issues with that. But I can't
did.
swear that it was word for word. the
I
whole thing.
did.
Yeah, it was a long one.
It was a
yeah.
long meeting, yeah. And she sent you out some today from,
The July 12th.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
the-
and
and I
she knew
haven't-
that
yeah.
you weren't gonna look
No.
at them, but she just wanted to send them.
So is there a motion
So
to
this is
approve
for-
June 28th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we will postpone the July 12th until the next meeting. Good.
Perfect.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.